Today we're talking about a subject that's a big challenge in the Atlanta market right now, and that is affordable housing, or the missing middle. Well, one local city is trying a unique project called a cottage court. The city of Clarkston is located on Atlanta's east side, and they built a project which they hope will be a model for future development. It's called the cottage court concept. And this particular cottage court is a pocket of very small homes kind of directly adjacent to downtown Clarkston. The cottage court concept is to build a group of small cottages around a shared courtyard or communal open space. In the Clarkston project, 8 of these cottages were built on 1/2 acre. Each house is about 600 square feet, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, with a small front porch. There's a shared fire pit area with picnic tables and a community garden. This was designed to be a pilot for a cottage court ordinance, which is currently being considered by DeKalb County Board of Zoning. If it goes through, you could potentially see these cottage courts popping up elsewhere around DeKalb County. It's a very interesting concept. I think it has a few potential pitfalls, and I'll talk about those in a few minutes. These cottage court houses are valued at about half the current median sales price in Clarkston, which is around $300,000. So they're definitely more affordable, but they're also very small. I've sold several homes to older people who are moving to Decatur and Atlanta to be closer to their grandchildren, and finding smaller houses is a big challenge these days. Looking around Atlanta, a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house is functionally obsolete for most buyers. The competition for these increasingly rare smaller homes around 1,000 square feet is basically 3 groups. There's investors who want to turn them into rentals, builders who want to tear them down and turn them into a big brand new home, and the third group is older people who are downsizing and they're actually very comfortable living in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. They don't need all that excess space anymore. So it has a lot of value for them. But again, they're competing with investors and builders for that same property. The cottage court or pocket neighborhood concept could offer a very elegant solution. Since the properties are small, very small in fact, it really caps the price at some point, and there's a piece of land there that's also very small. It's not really buildable for anything other than this tiny house. Since the houses and the land are so small, it really creates a cap on the demand, so it should theoretically keep the price down. You can imagine that most of the demand for these smaller homes would be young couples who don't yet have kids, single people, or older people who don't need a large house with a lot of overhead and a lot of maintenance. For older people, an added benefit would be kind of having a built-in group of close-knit neighbors who are able to check in on them periodically and assist them, as they need help. So the cottage court concept has a lot of advantages and, could certainly bring more affordable housing to the market in a way that I think some of the other affordable housing initiatives around Atlanta have not been able to do. So here are some potential pitfalls with the cottage court concept and also with some of the other affordable housing initiatives around Atlanta. The first is the question of ownership. Either you own the house or you don't. If you, for example, own the house under fee simple ownership, you get the broadest complement of rights. You can basically do anything you want with the house as long as it complies with current zoning restrictions. What this also means is that there's no mechanism to artificially reduce the price of the house once the current owner puts it back on the market. It's going to index to inflation. It's going to index to demand, and there's nothing that's going to keep the price down as soon as the owner decides to sell. And that means that affordability is basically whatever the highest bidder is willing to pay. In the case of these cottage court homes, they're all fee simple ownership, which means that the house will be sold when it is sold, will be sold at current market rates. Again, price increases should be mitigated by the fact that it's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath house on a very small piece of land. In today's market, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath is really the minimum that most people find acceptable. But as I said, there are still many people who are looking for a small house, and in today's market, that's an increasingly difficult find. Now, in contrast to fee simple ownership, some of the affordable housing initiatives we've seen elsewhere in Atlanta rely on sort of a public-private cooperative ownership of the property, which would theoretically keep the price down, but it's very problematic. If the government wants to preserve some interest in the property in order to maintain affordability for teachers or police officers or firefighters or some other specially designated group, honestly, I don't see how this doesn't violate either the spirit or the letter of current fair housing laws, which are designed to prevent discrimination. In short, how do you decide who gets to purchase a property at below market rates? Should teachers or firefighters or police officers get priority for that home? What about the elderly? Should they get priority for that home? How do you decide? Do you have a lottery? So I think that these public-private ownership schemes have a lot of potential for mischief and grief. The second issue is this. When you look at the average lot size in DeKalb County, Georgia, it's about 1/3 of an acre. So with the cottage court concept, your neighbor could theoretically sell their house and it could be torn down and replaced with perhaps 8 tiny houses on that same lot. That's a pretty radical reimagining of single family housing, and I suspect it's going to be met with some serious resistance if it does in fact pass. I do think the cottage court concept has some real potential, and it's primarily in parcels of land that are directly adjacent to downtown areas. For example, over in Avondale Estates, there's a huge parcel of land that is currently being considered for redevelopment. It's actually right next to downtown Avondale Estates. That would be the perfect place for something like this. You're not going in and radically changing the character of existing single family housing. You're taking it and you're saying, let's build this as a new concept, but keep it to its own area and keep it directly adjacent to downtown areas or a lot of light industrial areas like we see all over Atlanta. So cottage court concept has a lot of potential. It is being considered by DeKalb County, and we'll have to see where it goes. I like to keep an eye on these things, and I try not to have too many fixed opinions about this. I try to keep my mind open, and let's see where it goes. Let's see what opinions people have if, for example, their neighbor's house gets torn down and suddenly there's a cottage court going in next door. Maybe they love it, maybe they don't. We'll have to wait and see. So as always, thanks for watching. If you're considering making a move to Atlanta or making an investment in Atlanta, please feel free to reach out. My contact information is in the box below and also in the description box. Love to talk to people. Always love to help. Thanks for watching.